wants yesterday's papers? Who wants yesterday's girl?
Welcome to another edition of Looped In Live, presented by Methuen Family Health Center. My name is Tim Wood. I am the editor of Loop Weekly, and I am very excited to be here with one Lou Blassie. How are you?
I've been looking forward to this like a Patriots game. All week long. I'm going, oh, this is going to be good.
What are you looking forward to?
It's just busy. Lots of things happening in Methuen. Lots to talk about.
There are. It's
Everyone's emotional.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And, you know, I found myself getting a little emotional last night, and some
Yeah, now I didn't get to see it. You did a whole hour
I did.
on that thing?
I did a whole hour just on just everything that's been going on and just the whole mess. It's just been, so you know, part of just in terms of the public participation has been kind of a renewed faith in the process. And then part of it, just kind of learning some of the things of how to get us, how it got us here.
Yeah.
It's just been an extreme disappointment in the process.
Well, it was like a textbook example of how to get the people riled up. I mean, you started with the user fees.
Yes.
Which 10 years ago it was, we're going to cut the football program.
Yes.
That's how you get people involved.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Nowadays, it's user fees.
Yes.
Right? So everyone got riled up for that, and then everyone started to get an idea of how bad the school fiscal situation was. And then they started, and after following that, they get an idea of why the school's fiscal situation is so bad and the problems that the city has, and then everybody just got...
Then you got the police numbers that came out at Tuesday's budget workshops. You know, we've hinted at it on the show, but you had you've got captains making a base of $440,000. You've got
Base.
A base. It's all about that base. Yeah, base. Actually, no. Yeah. So and they're making $434,000, and they would be making more than the chief of police, which would be making $371,000.
400,000.
Yeah, and then $268,935 for lieutenants.
It hurts. I'm not a Methuen taxpayer, and it hurts.
It does. It does. You know, and it just it's very hard to compartmentalize everything that's going on.
Yeah.
All I've been saying is, like, you know, is what's happening in terms of the police contract. It's obscene. The numbers are obscene, but it was a negotiated contract.
Yeah.
And it was negotiated by the city.
Yes.
And by city officials. And that, to me, trumps everything. Yes, those numbers are obscene. Yes, it's a bad situation that we're $4 million over on last year's school budget, and the budget that's being asked for. There's some questions in terms of what the raises look like, and you know, how we're cutting people but giving people raises. You know, under the $76 million, you would be cutting a lot of people. Under the $82 million, you wouldn't be cutting anybody, but you have some significant raises in there, as we've kind of come to see in dissecting the school budget. So
the chatter I've been hearing, though, and I think some of it with you too, is like, I think you let the police off too easily. I know it's a negotiated contract, and the city agreed to it and all that, but the police, especially the Superior Officers Union, aren't indifferent to the fiscal shape of the city. And there's a point.
What do you mean aren't indifferent?
It's not like they didn't understand what the impact of this contract would be.
I truly believe that they did not understand the escalators. I think that they were trying to protect themselves in terms of getting back some of the raises that they had lost in previous years. Mm-hmm. But, you know, tone that I'm getting behind the scenes from everybody is that they want to make a deal. They want to be reasonable here, and that they realize that it's not a good look.
Yeah.
At all.
But it's post. It's the cynical. It's the cynic in me. It's post look. None of this was a factor when they put the contract forward. I think the mayor tell us that this contract was put together by the police side?
The contract, yeah, the contract.
I believe that's what he said.
Contract was drafted by the representatives of the union. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you're going to go with they didn't know what the final numbers would be.
I'm not gonna go with that per se, but I really don't think that they understood that. It seems like they were not factoring in the Quinn bill incentive part of it,
right? Which
really jumps this up. I mean, it jumps it up 25% essentially as a base before you do the multipliers. So if you're taking your base and jumping it up by 25% and then doing the multipliers, I think it escalated beyond what they thought. And
you could be right.
And it's not that I'm even...
Public unions are very skilled in this arena.
So
they understand.
My question though is shouldn't the city be equally skilled?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And that to me, like, I'm not letting the police off by any means. I just that's a signed contract.
Yep.
And now like I'm just trying to deal in the here and now. That's a signed contract that whatever we think of it, the city signed off on it. The mayor's office signed off on it. The city solicitor, the city auditor, the city council, all signed off on it. And we can't go back now and say, "Oh, geez, we want a do-over."
Legally, pragmatically, you're absolutely right. But when I see posts that start with, you can't blame the police here. I don't know. They take a piece of the pie. From a moral standpoint, they take a piece of the pie here.
Okay. So, yeah, absolutely. I'm just what I was saying in that
post. What you're
post.
saying is right, that they didn't understand what these salaries would be after these escalators. They have an obligation to understand too.
I mean, there's no doubt that they take a piece of. I mean, everybody's got to take a piece of they don't come off. I mean, I guess maybe if in my post I just assumed as a base that they weren't coming off clean here.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to say is that you've got so many different components to this that if we just go over here and they're the full blame, you're gonna let off. You're gonna let off the folks.
Yeah.
That we elected to prevent this in the first place.
I hear you, because I'm leaning the argument kind of the other way at the moment, because I don't think the city is being let off at all. And the thing is, and you and I have talked about this, and this is me. This is not Loop Weekly or anybody in Methuen.
Absolutely.
This is me. I hear the drums beating. I hear the school's in trouble. We don't fund our education, all that, and all that's true. You've had comparisons with other districts. It's very low. Methuen's very low. But I know what they're aiming for, and they're aiming for the taxpayer. They're whipping up public sentiment that we have to take care of the kids, and we have to take care of the kids. But you know what? Right now, the city and the police unions need to be looked at first before we start hitting the taxpayer again. If there's a solution here that can be had within that realm, it's got to be had within that realm.
I don't know if
I know.
I don't know if it can be had within that realm. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like you've got a
because this is a hit the taxpayer shouldn't take.
You've got a $10 million hit. You got a $10 million ask from the school above and beyond. You got $4 million that you got to pay off from last year from the schools, and you've got a $3 million base hit from this police contract. So,
yeah.
Where does it all come from? And there's really we're talking about millions, and there's hundreds of $1,000s in the reserve tank at this point.
Oh, yeah.
There's not millions. So, I guess that's just where I'm coming from. I just you have to prioritize things here, and you really don't think that folks aren't that folks are.
Maybe my
not
my antenna was up at some of the posts, because the tone of some of the posts on Loop Weekly, and I've been following along.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you get this, well, the union has a right to ask for as much as it can get, and I understand that to an extent. But in a closed financial environment like city finances, municipal finances, that's a big hit. And they knew it was a big hit. They had to know it was a big hit.
Doesn't it start, though? Doesn't any negotiation start with the big number?
Listen, I'm not absolving the city. It's, what was the word you used before? Obscene?
Obscene.
It's obscene. What happened with this contract is obscene, and every municipality in the state of Massachusetts should be scared out of their minds about what happened here.
They are.
Yeah.
They are, and trust me when I tell you, they're looking.
Because every other police union is bringing this contract to them.
This is the new base for every police union, not just in the state, in the country.
And who brought it up? Was it Sid? Oh, no, it was the mayor. The mayor brought it up. Keep in mind, this is not just money spent over the lifetime of this contract.
Oh,
this
no.
is going to bump pensions up for these guys
absolutely, because
for the rest of their lives.
Yes, I mean this is a hit, and we can say $3 million this year, but it's really potentially a $3 million hit, or at least a couple $1 million hit above and beyond for many, many years.
The rest of their lives.
Yeah, because
they could potentially retire in their late 50s, early 60s. They live to 80. We're paying the pension on these salaries for the next quarter century.
So what do you do? If
you don't want to know what I'd do.
If you're the mayor right now, what do you do? Because going to court is not the answer. You're going to lose, and you're going to pay triple damages.
It depends on what your priority is, and I don't know what the mayor's priority is. If my priority is the city of Methuen, you know the way to void this contract. We all know the way to void this contract. The state receivership.
That's a nuclear option.
It's the nuclear option. But what's the recourse? I mean, well, the Superior Officers Union has negotiated down, and I give them credit for that. They've negotiated down if the numbers you talked about last night on Ranger Nation Radio were close to accurate. They've negotiated down significantly.
About 33% almost.
Yeah, I give them credit for that. But
actually more than 30. Yeah, almost 40%. But it's still a big number.
Well, let's explore. If I take the option off the table, you talk about the nuclear option of receivership. If I take the option off the table of a Prop 2.5 override, if I take the option off the table of raising taxes or raising valuations on homes, then what do you do? If I took that away, if I took away the option of hitting the taxpayers for this, what do we do?
You try to take some bonds. But they've already said you really can't do that. You can't deficit fund, essentially. So, the mayor is talking to other cities that are facing this problem. Lowell, as he said, is facing...
Every municipality in Massachusetts is on the verge of this. And this was, the police contract in Methuen was a straw that broke the camel's back. But every municipality in virtually Massachusetts, certainly eastern Massachusetts, every municipality is right here, one contract away. And so I get a little antsy when public unions start looking for funds when this precipice that Methuen is on right now, or it's gone over and every other town is on, is largely the result of years and years and years of these contracts.
So we got
municipal finances aren't healthy. They aren't healthy anywhere. You can't run cities the way we run cities in this state.
So we've got some folks on the line already here. And by the way, now today's the day if you want to call in, for sure call in. What's the number, Lou?
978-659-0072, and I'll put that up there.
Lou will post it in the comments. But listen, if you want to get on the line, we certainly want to hear from you. We've already got Phil Leahy, and very much appreciated. Phil says, "I'm sorry, Tim, but Lou is right. I was a union rep, and we always knew what we were after and the effect it would have. I only wish we would have the opportunity to negotiate with our previous mayor. The blame is his for the contracts and the shortfall for the schools. He has left Methuen in the biggest mess ever, and I have been around for a long time." I can't just blame the mayor here. I can't just blame the previous mayor, because the current mayor was part of the city council.
That's his problem right now.
You know, and so
that's a major thing for him to deal with at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Jerry Farrow says, "I was involved very involved over the years with negotiations and unions. I agree, but they must know this will cripple Methuen. Bad blood either way." You know, and it's tough, because I have never kind of defined myself as a union guy. I'm not a union apologist at all here. Mm-hmm. I guess. And
I lean, even though my kids were raised on public funds. Their mother was a school teacher. So I've been through these negotiations before. I do lean anti-public union because, again, they've strained municipal finances. And I understand everyone wants to get what they can get. I understand that principle. But there's a certain point where you have to stand up as a person and understand what the results of this are going to be.
And I do think that the superior officers, at least, are at that point
now.
But I mean, at least
would
they're
have been
there.
Great if they had found that
sense during negotiations. Yeah. You don't at all, though, in terms of believe in the idea of if I'm being offered this, I take it.
I think there's a point. I don't know. There's a point.
You only have so many times that you get to ask.
I get it.
You know, so when I'm working for somebody, or if I'm a pro athlete,
and by the way, let's keep in mind that the union's job is to get as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's their reason for existence. Doesn't mean I like their reason for existence, and it doesn't mean I like their morality in this case. I can understand it. Me personally, at a certain point, when I'm understanding what this is going to do to the schools, what it's going to do to the municipal finances, there's a point. 400. Let's repeat this. Let's repeat this. You said the base pay for superior officers is $430,000?
$434,000 for captains.
That's obscene.
That's $268,500 for lieutenants, and let me scroll back down here.
Do you have offhand? I hate to hit you cold. Do you have the numbers for other superior officers around Massachusetts?
160,000 for sergeants. So
that seems. I keep going back to the word. That's obscene.
Yeah, no, it is. The mayor. The police chief. I know that the captains here would be making more than the police chief of Boston. I mean, that much.
Stacy's talking about the fiduciary responsibility of the city council and mayor. We're not absolving them. I'm not absolving them at all.
And that's just.
I was just kind of bristling at people and their relationship with the police, saying, well, you know, they get to ask everyone asks for as much as they can get. I don't know.
I mean, do we just do? But I guess if
this were $200,000 they were making, I might go along with you. $400,000. Again, $430,000.
If I'm picking, all I'm saying is, if I'm picking my spots here, if
you're going
me
zero
personally,
sum, you got to blame it on one or the other.
You're
going zero sum, you have to blame it on one or the other.
Well, no, I'm just in terms of if I'm. And it's not on me to assign blame, but if I'm putting a percentage or where I want to start the priority for it, I am starting with the city.
Fair enough. I'm not letting the city off in any way. Any way, shape, or form.
You got somebody on there?
Yeah, Phil's on.
Hey, Phil.
Hi.
How are you?
I never thought I would want to call politics.
I mean, you're already doing enough on air. This is like bonus time for you. How are you?
I'm good, but like I said, I worked in the DPW for a lot of years. I was a union president for a lot of years.
That's what people forget. I mean, Phil had a whole other life.
Yeah, I did. And you want to know something? It's a life I like to put in the past. I don't get involved in politics anymore, but, all the years that I've lived and worked in Methuen, I've never seen anything quite like this. And, is it all around
though, Phil? Is it when you say anything like this? Is it the police? Is it the schools? Is it the city? Or are you just talking about the police?
I'm afraid it's. I think you have to put the blame on our prior administration, and I don't even want to just blame him. I'm afraid that the problem is that he just wasn't qualified. Maybe it's time for Methuen to say maybe this mayor, and I never thought I'd say this, but it might be time to say this mayor thing isn't working out, and we need someone who is an administrator. I don't blame the unions. I don't blame the police. When I used to go in to negotiate a contract, you go in there and you try to get as much as you can.
But now wait a second. You said though earlier in your comment that you know what you're going for. So
of course we do.
Yeah.
Lou is right on this. The guys that represent the union, be it the DPW, the police, the fire, teachers, whoever, we've been doing this for a long time. And when we negotiate benefits and how they're going to impact our base, of course we know. If the mayor wasn't aware of it, then shame on him. If he was aware of it and still gave it to him, then double shame on him. But I'm not gonna rip the unions. I mean, they're doing their main purpose is to represent the people that the guys they represent. And if you have someone that's nutty enough to open up the vault, and I'm sorry, I blame the past administration for the whole goddamn thing.
But do you
something like this?
Are you talking about city council included?
Well, I don't know the situation.
Because the city council had the final vote on this. They could have said no.
According to them, and like I say, I don't know how true any of this is. According to them, they were voting on something that would only impact the contract by 2%. Now, somebody either didn't do their homework or they weren't told the truth.
I mean, but that's where it starts, though. Do you vote on something? Do you vote on something without reading it?
It's not the point. When I was on the city council, I didn't read through their whole contract. When the contract came to me, I would look at the bottom line, and it would say, everything included, it was a 2% raise or a 3% raise or whatever. City council, as far as I'm concerned, they voted on what consisted of what all the other unions were getting was a 2% across the board.
Yep.
So,
there's only two options at that point, Phil. Either they had the correct numbers and they didn't dig deep enough to get them, or they were given something that was inaccurate. And both of those are mind-bogglingly bad circumstances.
Yes, that's what I said. There's no good on this. Like I said, either they weren't given the information and they voted on something that they weren't aware of what it really was, or they were and they voted on it anyway. In any effect, the only ones that aren't at fault are the unions who negotiated in good faith.
Let me ask you this, though, and I hate to put you on the spot. But
that's okay. I'm used to it.
Yeah. I hate he lives on the spot.
I don't want to personalize this to you, but you're negotiating for a public union, and you know what the numbers are, and you know what the city finances numbers are, because I'm guessing you've scouted your opponent, and you understand what they have to give and all that stuff, and you understand that the school is $3 to $4 million in deficit in the fiscal year. They're already underfunded. City just doesn't have the money to pay superior officers $430,000 apiece. Do you still go for it?
That's really a tough call. Don't forget, I was a DPW. We were lucky if we got $400,000 for the whole guys.
Yeah.
But all I know is, like I said, I've never seen a situation like this. I've never seen such a mess. I mean, obviously, I'm a senior citizen on a fixed income now, so I'm very concerned about what's going to happen. But, I mean, I can't blame the unions on this because they did negotiate in good faith. And don't forget, I can remember back when I was sitting on the council, there was like 2 years in a row where city employees took a 10% cut to help out the citizens. So, I guess a lot of them think they're trying to get back what they lost out back then. But, to me, it takes two sides to negotiate.
Yep.
And when you negotiate something, and the mayor, from what I understand, was a real hands-on person in these negotiations, then, I mean, I'm sorry. I think it may be time for the citizens of Methuen to say, maybe it's time to stop the popularity contest and put a manager back.
Put a CEO back in charge that we actually hold to qualifications.
Okay, I think I've said enough to get myself in trouble. You guys have a good show.
Hey, Phil, one more question before you go.
Okay.
Okay, because you said you're on the spot. Have you seen any of the DPW asks in this budget? Do you have any thoughts on that, or you want to hang up now?
No, let me put it this way. I understand that Mayor Jajuga's in a tough spot. The first thing I would do if I'm him, you're in a tough spot. You're trying to deal with the police. You're trying to deal with the school. Don't go adding new positions that you don't need.
Thank you, Phil.
I think anybody who's read the contract knows what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Thank you
right,
very much, my friend. Thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciate it.
And put out the lights now, okay?
You got it.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye. That's Phil Leahy. Huge thanks for calling in. I mean, you talk about a guy with perspective.
Oh, yeah.
He's seen just about everything going on in the last few decades here. I
can't go as far as I understand all the arguments here. I can't go as far as you can't blame the police unions because it was a death blow ask.
I'm just saying there's percentages, and if I'm starting, okay, he's absolutely right in terms of the previous mayor. Now you've got the previous administration and who is now the current city auditor. You have the police unions here. There's so many different layers to this, and then now you've got to deal with in the here and now, and that really isn't really being dealt with, it seems.
You know what my baseline on this is? When you absolve any of these parties, and I'm not absolving any of them, but when you absolve any of these parties, you put the crosshairs squarely on the taxpayer. And I am so against this in this situation because this is a public union, municipality, city hall created issue. They got to find a way to fix it within themselves. You can't keep going back to the well.
You got somebody else on?
Yeah, go ahead, caller.
Hey, how are you guys? Jerry Farrell. I've been in Methuen since 1984.
Hey, Jerry. I see you on the comments. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, so, I just recently retired myself, and this has been very entertaining, but I got to be honest with you, very disturbing to see something like this happen. When I saw the salaries of some of these policemen, first of all, I think they do great jobs, but this is over, above, and beyond the call of money. Someone needs to step in and go back to these guys. And, I wrote on your podcast that I've been in negotiations myself.
Yeah, I saw. Absolutely.
You got to go back to the well and say, guys, you got to help us out. And I know this has been done before, but I'll be honest with you.
That's where they're at right now, though, Jerry, is they are saying that they want to help. And where it is at right now, there's no answer in terms of why the mayor doesn't want that help, why the mayor isn't accepting that help.
He's looking for more.
I don't understand that at all. Why would you not want to go back?
Well, he doesn't want the deal. I'm guessing
he doesn't want the deal at all.
He doesn't want the deal in front of him.
He's already said that. He doesn't want the deal at all. He wants to null and void it.
He wants to go back to the 0, 2, and 2? Or?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're going to. I don't think that. I mean, they're putting an olive branch out there and you're breaking it in half. That's not going to go a long way.
That doesn't sound realistic.
He just
the other thing I wanted to
it.
make comment was, since I've been here, I said this as well. You need a professional running this town. This town has gotten really big, lots going on, businesses. You need a town manager. You need a professional that understands negotiations, financial situations. I think it's wonderful that people, volunteer their time to be on the city council and the mayor runs, but it's a bit of a popularity contest. And I've always said to my wife and my family here, this always concerns me that we don't really have a professional in there running a business like a regular business. And this certainly wouldn't have happened. I'm telling you, if you had a professional in there,
Yes.
I can't see this happening. And
I mean, if it
extremely
happens,
concerning.
you fire the CEO.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. And I'm going to be honest with you. How many people in their lifetime get raises like these guys got? God bless them. I mean, I can't blame them for
unless
taking
you're
and
a pro
running with
athlete.
it, but
Yeah, unless
it's
you're
unheard of. And if
Yeah.
I can't imagine being in business all my life that a CEO would even, they'd be out the door the next day. And his entire staff, for that matter.
I don't know how long you've been in town, Jerry, but you remember, Tim.
84, he said. Yeah.
84, okay. So you remember this the stadium issue with the turf.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And how they took the school committee, they took the city council and the school committee, and they lined them up against these kids. They just lined the kids up right in front of them.
Right.
And made their argument about putting that in. You got to get the police into one of these meetings, line up the citizens again, line up the kids again. That was an interesting technique. Do it again.
Well, I think one of the things about you find in humans' nature is face-to-face, things are different.
Yeah, we're losing that now.
You've got a lot of text messages going on. You've got a lot of emails. You've got a lot
social
of
media.
You got newspaper. You put people in front of each other, everything changes.
Because
I'm telling you.
right now,
I think you've got a really good point there. Throw these people in a room and let's figure this out, because I got to tell you, this is extremely concerning from a taxpayer. And my wife was a teacher. My kids got educated here. We love it here. But I'd be nervous if I was a young parent with a child right now in this town.
Sure.
I really would be.
That's me, my friend.
I'd be very
That's
concerned.
me. I've got a 15-year-old and an 8-year-old in schools, and I am scared poopless at the moment.
I understand, but everything that's happening right now is squarely aiming this at the taxpayer. And the taxpayers, you want to talk about constituencies, the taxpayers have to stand up here.
You're starting to sound like Sid.
So guys, I have a question. When did this, and I just caught this the last couple of days, but when did this come to light? At the first meeting this past week, or had
When
this
did
been
what
known?
come to line? What did what come to
The
light?
real numbers of this police
The real
contract.
numbers.
so
when
re-
did it come to light?
So they officially told us the real numbers at Tuesday's budget workshop, but these numbers have been in the ether since November.
And nobody brought it to
and it's
anyone's
just
attention?
been in the elephant in the room. Nobody wanted to say the numbers. Nobody wanted to commit to the numbers, and here we are.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a mess.
I will go back to this whole principle of manufacturing and business. That whole staff will be gone. See you later. Unfortunately, you can't do that here, but someone needs to stand up and be accountable. Has anybody spoken to the previous mayor? Or is he even in the ball game at this part?
He's not available for comment at the moment.
No, he's not. Okay.
A CEO, a town manager is what we're talking about, we'll name it. A town manager with a contract is not beholden to anybody.
Right.
Except the signers of the contract.
Help me with some history. Have we ever had a town manager here?
Here's one thing.
That's a completely different negotiation with public unions than any of the mayors of this town or any other municipality in Massachusetts has to face.
How long have we had a mayor in Methuen? How long has that been a
So they had we've had 5 mayors now. So and then before that we did have the town manager. Mike McLaughlin was our last
did that
town
not
manager.
work well?
Well, he ended up in prison, so some people would say it probably didn't work well, but and that's not a fair representation, a full representation of his story, but there were issues there were issues there as well. Really? I think anytime you've got a consolidation of power, there's issues, and you just need you need checks and balances, and maybe there weren't enough checks and balances at that time. They weren't watching everything close enough. Yeah. But I'll tell you, this is the public sentiment that's lining up. It really is. Is that if you're gonna have these kind of negotiations, you need a CEO that is qualified, and you need to have all the people in the room. And that's part of the problem here is they did not have all the people in the room asking the questions. Now, what I've heard is that Mayor Zani would go to Tom Kelly after the fact and ask questions, during the course of these 8 negotiating meetings. And so the numbers were on the table, and the city auditor knew them, and the mayor knew them, and the city solicitor knew them. and the unions knew him. So, you know, that's
Did the council know him?
the council didn't know him until right before the vote, and this is according to the city auditor Tom Kelly, that he told a couple of the councilors about his concerns with it before the vote. Now, there are plenty that will say, okay, the city auditor does not work for the mayor. He reports to the city council.
Right.
And he should have let the entire council know. And he does. He has openly said that he regrets not doing that, but regret is...
Oh, again, I go back to this whole business model. People like that don't survive.
Yep.
And we're enabling these people. We're going to slap them on the hand and move along.
If I remember
I got to tell you, something drastic needs to change in this town, or we're already in for a big problem. Because I didn't realize it, and I think you were talking about it. This isn't just about this year. This is about many years down the road. We're going to be paying. This is like signing a free agent for 20 years at $300 million, and he's going to be 50 years old in his 30th year. We got a big problem here.
This is a Mike Hampton contract for those baseball junkies.
Now, correct me on my Methuen history. The former mayor ran against Sal DiNuccio, right?
Yes.
And what was the margin of victory? It was small, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
5,
Wow.
6 points? 6 points.
Yes. And if I remember at the time, most of it was attributed to public union support.
Yes.
And
As was his victory over Jennifer Kinnan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
A town manager doesn't have that type of baggage walking into a negotiation with a public union.
Exactly. It's business, and it's only business. It's
And
not
I said
personal.
that. Lou Blassie addressed all correspondence to.
Well, listen, thanks for the time, guys. I'll be listening.
Right back at you.
right.
Don't be a stranger. Call in in the
now
future.
that I'm retired, I will be more of a. You'll be hearing from me more, and I think I'm going to get a little bit more active with this whole process as well.
That can't be a wrong thing, honestly. The more we have people with the eye on the ball, the better we all are. So really appreciate you calling in.
All right. You have a good day, guys. Thank you much.
How about you?
You as well. All right, let's take a quick break. We are already deep in the show. I've got a Steve Saba in the bullpen here that we want to give proper time to, Methuen City Councilor. Let's take a break. Will you sign off on a few extra minutes today?
Sure.
Okay. We'll do overtime again. It's on my tab today, not Bill Bryant's. So we'll take a break. Come back at you. Right back at you. Looped In Live, presented by Methuen Family Health Center. All right, a big shout out to the folks over at AFC Urgent Care. They've been big supporters of us since the beginning as the title sponsor of Ranger Nation Radio, and we are big fans of theirs. AFC Urgent Care, the right care right now. You'll never need an appointment. Got that persistent cough and cold, that cut that needs a few stitches, or need a sports physical and don't want to wait weeks to get into your primary doctor? AFC's streamlined approach helps you be seen quickly and feel better fast. In Methuen, in the Merrimack Street Medical Professionals Building, 380R Merrimack Street. In North Andover as well, in the Burton Grill Plaza. 8 to 8 Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 Saturday and Sunday. Go to afcurgentcare.com for more details. Family is everything. That's why it's right there in the name of Methuen Family Health Center. Methuen Family Pharmacy, where you can get pharmacy services by the Methuen community for the Methuen community. You don't have to be a patient of Methuen Family Health Center to use the pharmacy either. Drop by 147 Pelham Street in Methuen, right off exit 47 near the junction of Route 213, and get your medication from the friendly faces you already see in your neighborhood. Learn more at glfhc.org/pharmacy. Huge thanks to the folks at Methuen Family Health Center for helping us to pay the bills to talk to you here on Looped In Live. Hey, before we bring as was said during the break, bringing a gentleman into the nest here. I want to sprinkle in a little of good news.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay. A couple of good things happened this week. Methuen firefighters delivered a breech baby on June 2nd, 2018 on Harmony Lane. Rick Talbot, Dave Broadhurst, Ed Dorr on Engine 5, and Matt Coco and Cooper Brown on Ambulance 1 delivered a baby that was breached. The baby was born at 1:11 p.m. on the 2nd. Mom Renee Dupuy and baby Braden Joseph, 6 pounds 6 ounces 19 inches, were transported to Lawrence General Hospital. Both are doing well. So that's a great story.
That's a good day at work.
Absolutely. And then we
How
had
much are the firefighters making?
that was the easiest discussion of all Tuesday night. They just came in, that very simple raises. Okay.
300,000, 350. What are they making?
Chief of police. No, come on. Now, you want to talk about getting me in trouble?
No. I'm being sarcastic.
I think the fire chief is just 215, somewhere around there, 215,000. Yeah. So one other story on Tuesday: 3 Methuen police officers saved an elderly man who was choking on food. Noon Tuesday, Methuen police responded. Responded to a call that an 83-year-old man was choking on pancakes inside his home on Linton Avenue. Officer Michael Robideau and Officer Matthew St. Jean responded, where they found the man sitting in his chair in the kitchen, hunched over, unresponsive. St. Jean administered the Heimlich on the victim, while Officer Robideau prepped a bag valve mask. Officer Michael Havey Jr. also responded to the scene. So a huge thank you there to a life saved.
Great job. Yeah.
I've come close a couple times, and that's why I chuckled. It's not a laughing matter, but I've the pancakes.
You don't normally chew your pancakes anyway, do you?
I try, but all right. Back here on Looped In Live, presented by Methuen Family Health Center. Join us in the conversation now, and by the way, folks, we are gonna go. I've got the sign off from Lou behind the glass to go a little longer, so we will go past the hour here. If you are watching live, which we've got a fair amount of people watching live and commenting today, so
we'll be past the hour here, not on anytalks.net or
exactly only on Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. So if you're listening on anytalks.net.
We get booted at.
Come on over to Facebook.
Booted at noon.
Come on over to Facebook.
Yeah.
So
what's going on? We want to talk about weather or what?
You want to talk about the Bruins again?
Sure.
I got a lot of laughs. From people the last time you came. And the first thing we were talking about were the Bruins, and you were just like, yeah.
Yeah, that was
a good game.
You can talk about the Red Sox. Poor LeBron, huh?
Oh, yeah. Come on. You're playing 5-on-1 there. But, it was never more evident than last night. But nothing going on.
No, it's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, pretty quiet week.
Yeah.
So, you going away going to the Cape for the weekend? Or?
No, I was thinking I might hang out at City Hall tonight for about 5-6 hours.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And that's what people forget, Lou. Like, Tuesday was the big hurrah, but there's another budget workshop tonight.
Yeah, another one tonight. Yeah.
What's on the schedule tonight? The mayor's office is on the schedule. I know, right?
Yeah, we actually on the first meeting was only the school committee, the police department, the fire department, and the legal department. That was it. So everything else is tonight. Those are some tough categories, though.
So. There's some special meetings scheduled as was hinted at on Tuesday. You're going to have a couple of meetings on Monday, from what I understand.
Monday night, a special meeting was called to vote on a couple of issues, and then one is going to be the bonding of the money that we need to borrow to bail out the school department, and the other item is for the trash contract that we tabled.
Okay. and then executive session after that.
Executive session after that.
So, I guess where I want to start with you is, this is your first time being through these budget workshops, facing these department heads face to face. So, I put out the numbers in Loop Weekly, and they're on a page, and then it looks it doesn't look good in some aspects. But then when you face people face to face and you start hearing about what the needs are, I mean, what has this been like for you to just hear this face to face and deal with and try to parse all these budget decisions?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, last year they didn't really do any of this, so this was a quiet week for the previous council. So, but I handle maybe a little differently than some. I look at the items coming up. I've read through the budget in detail, but I call the departments. I do some research before the meeting, so I'm pretty much prepared, and I have a lot of the answers already. So, I've spoken with several departments, knowing some of the obvious questions coming in, so I'll be ready for them.
There's a lot of focus been put on the numbers that were put out Tuesday night related to the police. I'm just curious because I've put my.
Was there a problem?
Oh no, none.
Okay.
No, I've put out my perspective, and it's, it gets clouded because I'm not an apologist. I mean, listen, I'm a small business. I'm a small businessman, just barely getting out an issue every 2 weeks, and fighting for every crumb. So, those numbers are staggering. I guess from my perspective, I'm just trying to deal in the here and now and what the reality of the situation. I mean, when you hear all this, where are you coming at this from? Do you want to go back and correct it, or do you want to deal with it now?
Well, I want to do both. I mean, we have to deal with it now, but those numbers, to pay that much money out is going to basically would bankrupt the city. So we need to do something to correct it. If we have to pay those numbers, then that's something that we can't do with the current budget. So I'm going to tell you right now, here's my prediction. Even if everything is great right now, or if we can resolve some of these issues, we're looking at a very big tax increase. I said that before I got in. Back in December, when we watched the previous council discuss the tax rate, and I was saying that night that if we think that's bad, next year is going to be so much worse, and here we are. So we really do have to go through each item. We have to be responsible. I'm trying to just look at everything with an open mind, but saying, look, I ran to represent the community, and we have to be responsible.
I mean, I do want to thank you guys for doing that, for going through it line by line. And I'm assuming you're going to be voting on it line by line. Is that accurate?
I'm intending on that, and there's no thanks. I think that's what should be done. It should be done every year. You go through the budget line by line. How do you not go through it line by line, and then you complain about certain costs that are in place?
It hasn't happened in previous years,
no, it
though.
hasn't.
And I will say, and I said this online, one of the people that voted on it not to be done last year was the current mayor. And that's, to me, that's a problem. That's a problem. There was a vote on it, as our previous chair pointed out to me yesterday, that's now a junior accountant in the police department. That was a little bit of a scandal that just kind of got swept under the rug. But he pointed out to me that there was indeed a vote, and it was a 5-4 vote to not go through it line by line. And 2 of the people that were voting on it had personal gain in not voting on it. So
interesting.
How about that? Anyway, so I digress.
Can I ask you about something you just said, Steve? You're talking about a substantial tax increase that is necessary at this point. Can that increase be covered under a 2.5% raise?
Well,
is an override?
I don't want an override,
necessary?
And I would never vote for an override, especially when
nor should anyone ever vote for an override.
When it is due to mismanagement.
Yeah.
The only time I would vote for an override is if we had a natural disaster or some major problem that nobody foresaw, and we have to get our.
Well, you could do a temporary that's targeted for a specific major issue. And no one's well. We
Is
can
that
all
the debt
evaluate
exclusion?
debt exclusion. You can do
Yep.
a debt exclusion. I don't have a problem with that on principle. You take them as they come. A 2.5 override.
No, it's
there are
just-
no circumstances
Well, no,
under
but
which.
that's still going to hit us, though. A debt exclusion is still going to hit us.
But it's
It's a
once you do
temporary.
this,
One-time
it's
thing.
temporary.
Yeah.
And usually it's earmarked, which is to solve the particular problem. You do a 2.5 override. That's part of the base now. It's 2.5 per year up from there.
And I think
Right.
people really need to get familiar because this Prop 2.5 override, I'm hearing it out of everybody's mouth right now. Get yourself familiar with the term debt exclusion,
Yes.
okay? Because I mean, is that something that you would consider?
I would consider a debt exclusion over something that, again, was unforeseen, and we need to get back on track. We're talking about correcting mismanagement. So, I think that the best way to correct the mistakes in mismanagement, we need to go through the budget, and we need to make some hard cuts. It's it, and it's not going to be, as far as I'm concerned, on the school side, because the school side has been underfunded. Regardless of what any opinion is, how do you take a budget the size of the school department and actually cut their budget by $1.5 million like they did last year? How do you do that? How did the mayor even think to propose that? How did the city council agree to that? And I said to the superintendent, I thought it was a mistake. I think you should have fought that. You don't,
And she said that Tuesday night. She
knows
regrets.
it was a mistake.
Yeah.
But hey, it's the school budget is controlled a lot by mandated programs.
Right. I was going
coming
to
from the
ask you,
government.
forgive me for not being familiar with this, is the city funding the school department at the minimum rates that the state requires? Which I think is what, 60% of the
Yeah,
budget?
they're being funded at the minimum. I
Yeah.
said it in the last meeting. It's getting tiring where we try to fund the school department for as little as legally we can,
Right.
and not a penny more. So when they get certain grants, the city, the mentality of the city is to look and say, geez, they got another $1 million. Can we take that away and count it? And it's a horrible way to do this.
You've lived here for how long?
I was born in Methuen.
Born and raised.
Yeah, I migrated out of the community when I was 1 and decided to come back when I was 5.
That was a conscious choice.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back,
Yeah.
to my roots.
Go travel a
That
little
was
bit
it.
when you were 1. Yeah, absolutely. So, have you ever seen a situation like this when you're facing so many bullets at once?
No, I haven't. I got involved politically. You guys were talking before I came on, and I was listening on the side there, but I got involved when the previous town manager was in place. And I was
And
one
by
of
the
those
way,
people.
correct me.
Yeah.
We said on one of the things we said earlier, the vote with Zani and
And with Al Denuncio was not
Denuncio.
6
It's
points. It was
not
6
6%.
votes.
It was 6 votes.
So a swing of 7, yeah. I mean, a swing of 12, So you have 6 people that voted the other way, and you have a different mayor.
Talk about like every vote can make a difference.
7.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he had the endorsements of all the public unions.
Yes, he did, because Al, if I recall, was, he was against spending on anything. He was very conservative-minded, and he wasn't even in favor of renovating the high school, which I just didn't agree with him there. But he still only lost by a handful
And I'm
of
guessing
votes.
more than 6 people in the public unions of Methuen's voted.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, where do you, if we don't go down this debt exclusion road, or the override, where do we go from there? We got a lot of bills to pay.
The first step has to be to do the budget. Let's see what we get, what we accomplish. And
Yeah.
I know people are seeing new positions and this and that, and there are stories behind a lot of them.
Yeah.
There are a lot that I turn around and I say, hey, I'm not supporting that. I'm going to vote that down. Hopefully the whole council will. But there are some numbers in there that you look and say, all right, it makes sense.
Yeah. I
You
mean, there's been some positions that have been just sweating by for a long time.
Well, sweating by or repositioning.
Yeah.
For instance, with the council, yeah, we asked for, I think, the council chair asked for, I think, 18,000 more. But, the town auditor and also the clerk of the council is going to be
Council
retiring.
clerk, yes.
And she does an incredible
Linda.
job. And I walk in there and I look and say, and we get our packets delivered. Whatever it is, she is on top of everything. I can ask her about an ordinance 10 years ago, and she'll have it to you right away. There's nobody, I'm afraid that when somebody comes in there, we're not going to be able to find things, and things aren't going to get done. So I know that the talk has been, in the council, let's at least get a part-timer to come in and help her, but also learn, at least know where things are filed. We actually have no idea.
So is the idea for the part-timer to become the clerk when she retires?
Not necessarily, but I don't think so, because I think we need to do a full search and get the right person.
They can assist the bridge.
That's right. You assist the bridge.
Yeah.
And honestly, we had 2 at one time, and it was cut out. But you don't need 2 full ones. But she's got her hands full. You definitely, we've got to do things that will run more organized. But I will tell you, with everything that's going on, I have no problem whatsoever with cutting that out either. I think it'll be a little more challenging for us when the transition happens, but we've got to cut money. It's got to be everywhere.
Can I ask you a question about procedure?
Yeah.
Because I know where this is going. If we've got the 2.5, people are going to bump up against that. Debt exclusions, people are going to bump up against that. You're still going to need more money. What is the process for property evaluation? What is the process for valuing houses?
That I believe, and I'm new at this, but I've done research. I believe that's done by the outside firm that comes in and they do the, I forgot the name of the company, but they're going to come in. They come and they do a property evaluation across the town.
With no direction from the town?
No, they do it independently.
Okay.
Which is a big thing.
And
It's a
then
huge thing.
then you work off the debt limit and the numbers that come from the state. So you basically look and you have to. So last year.
So this will not be an avenue to raise revenue if the city decides we need to raise property valuation by 10% next year.
No, I think that's going to have to be either a Prop 2.5 or a debt. Yeah, there's got to be some way, but no.
Yep.
You did. Lou mentioned the stadium project earlier. You were in the middle of it. You were a key force in moving all of these moving pieces towards a resolution there. So you have a reputation as a good mediator. Do you feel like you can help this situation with the police at all, and do you feel confident, not just with you personally, but do you feel confident in some of the things you've been hearing that we can maybe move this towards a solution before going to court?
I'm hoping to move something. I'm hoping they come up with a better solution before Tuesday, to be honest with you. I've spoken with the chief. I've spoken with the mayor. I've spoken with the union head, and said, you guys, Tuesday there's going to be a very upset crowd in there, and I think you guys need to be talking. But I'm hoping, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes where people are trying to talk and work things out. So it would be unfair right now to say anything. I'm hoping that.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying
somehow they come up with. I don't think they're going to have a solution by Tuesday, but we have to be able to vote on the budget. And right now, the budget is not. I know what the mayor's trying to do, but the budget is not accurately funded to meet a contract that's been in place for already a year. So we'll see what happens.
What happens if there is no solution, and can you guys, as a council, make a motion to not vote on the mayor's proposed budget there, but what the police chief proposed?
No, we have to vote.
You can't do that.
We can only cut the budget. We can't add to it.
No, I'm saying add to it, but I'm saying rather. So you have a proposed. Actually, yeah, that would be adding to it.
Yeah, it would be adding to it. But so the only option we would have as a council, and what I would do is I would go in and have to say we got to cut the budget. So if we think a lot of the problem is on the police side, then I'm going to go after the police department. So we got to cut the budget on the police side, make it work. Absolutely.
So let's talk about Monday and Tuesday. And so you've got all this stuff happening in social media, and I thought what Jerry said earlier, one of our callers, I thought that was phenomenal. I think it's a great point in that you get people face to face, get away from all of this chatter online, all of this, rah or fight the power. You get people in front of each other, which happened Monday and Tuesday, and I thought it went just about as well as you could hope in terms of just the turnout and the discussion. Yeah,
we need people. We need the community to be focused, paying attention. That's happening now, and it's hard. It's hard to go and sit in a city council meeting when there's not a lot going on, and to watch these things. But good old Eddie Quinn, who worked with me on the campaign, he's been watching it for years, and he says, "Did you watch that council meeting last night?" I said, "No, tell me about it, because I don't have the time." But realistically, we do have to be paying attention all year. But it is great that everyone's coming out, and it's important. But the other problem with that, you mentioned the stadium, and we had a great network of people that worked for that project, and everyone worked together. And when it was time for the public to come out, it became clear that 5 councilors were going to support it, 4 councilors would not. For whatever reason, they just decided it doesn't matter who speaks, who says what, we're not going to support this thing. So that first big meeting at the Timony, when people spoke for 2 solid hours, and I'm sitting there, and we knew they weren't going to change their votes. I don't know what they were looking at. They weren't listening, but they weren't. So, it was important to get the people out there, and the people did, and they made a difference. In this case, keep in mind, it's not enough yet, but the damage has been done to that budget. The current mayor, and I'm not going to defend or criticize what he's done so far. I'm simply saying that the current mayor has come up with $4.5 million. This is after last year they cut their budget by $1.5 million.
Talking about the schools.
Yeah, I'm talking about the school department. So he's trying his best. So after he came up with that, people have been packing the halls, and people are fired up, whatever else. And the city council, I'm 100% behind the schools. I always have been, and I don't think there's a lot of pullback by the council or from the mayor. I think everyone agrees we have a problem. No one's voted yet. You know what I'm saying? This is in the stage where we have to have hearings, have workshops. We have to get information so we can make our determination. But I just hope, for instance, Monday night at the special council meeting, yes, people can speak, but in all honesty, we all know. And there's a point where you have a lot of people there, and if you had a couple of speakers and everyone cheers, that's enough. Yep. And until a bad decision is made, or looks like a bad decision is being made, then you got to give us time to actually work through this. I mean, that's the problem right now, or it's part of the problem, is that you've got this distrust in the process from the previous administration, from the previous council, and then you guys are largely new. And some holdovers, but and like you said, you're just saying let us get through the process, let us make the decisions, or hear it all out, and then don't torch us before it's done. True, but on the other hand, you got to understand the frustration of everyone. Oh yeah, because this is a bad situation we're in. Absolutely.
So I can't hold you to this, and you don't have some of the key numbers to come up with this number. So we're just rough carpentry. How short is the city? How much money do you have to come up with? I won't even comment on that. I've got my ideas, but you know, there's a lot of stuff that's not resolved. There's some big pieces missing. Yeah, there really is. Yeah. Were you? Did you see the Eagle Tribune today? The story about the schools. Mm-hmm. Now, does that jive with your math in terms of going through that budget, in terms of what they put out there in terms of raises? If we're counting the full 82.5 and. Yeah, I think it does. It makes sense. I understand what they're saying. I met with the superintendent to discuss this, and I've had several conversations with her, and also their business manager, and
the numbers, you can easily move information from one line to another. You can move money around. But the end result is they're at 72 right now. Again, being funded to the bare minimum. The buildings are in phenomenal condition. They all look brand new. And they're not. The CGS, my 34-year-old daughter went to preschool the year it opened. So it's got to be 35 years old, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're saying they look nice from the outside, but they've got issues?
Well, in the inside, things like carpeting, they've done a lot to maintain them, but these cuts are starting to take its toll.
Yeah.
Okay? And in all honesty, we don't have the money to build a brand new school and do major renovations. You have to put money in. So there are line items that are saying we need money for improvements and upgrades, and you just can't cut that out.
Spending money to save money.
You have to spend money to save money.
Because if you don't maintain the
logical
buildings, you're in for a bigger bill.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there was a little levity during the discussions Tuesday night, and I thought one of the moments that was fun, at least, was the applause meter between you and Councilor Ryan Hamilton. You get just in terms of, I won't say play into the crowd, Steve, but I mean...
I wasn't, though. Here's the thing. We did give Councilor... Somebody did voluntarily choose to clap one more time. That only brought him to 4. But no, the reality is I wasn't trying to do that. I am so frustrated with what's going on and how the schools have been handled.
Yes.
It is frustrating. And I'm also so frustrated with the input of the Department of Education. I keep saying that. I said it in the meeting. I want to put together, and I think I want to move. We'll work on this right after the budget, but we've got to come up with a plan to avoid having this happen again year after year. It's unfair to give out pink slips. That is torturous to people. It's unfair to have to go through what you're doing. It's unfair for the kids to see us bickering over money and knowing they know more than a lot of people out there that are what we need in these schools.
That's where I was going, by bringing up the applause and everything. You made that point that we've got to get ahead of it. I wholeheartedly agree with you. The question becomes, though, how?
I intend on living up to what I said.
Yeah.
I mean, you know me. I mean, when we set that goal in that stadium, we got it done, and we're going to get this done. I think we need a group of, forget about the political side of it, a group of very capable people with deep experience, both at the city, the school, and the state side.
And I think
we've got to deal with this.
Part of what I've seen just in terms of the turnout here is we kind of identified a couple people that could maybe be helpful in the process here.
I thought that there's some great speakers there too.
Yeah, absolutely. What else you want to say? I appreciate you coming in today. You didn't have to, and I gave you the option to not, and you bailed us out last time. Other than Sid Harris, who's always here anyway, and always at the city council, I count you as the first official repeat
Well, Sid,
guest.
he's off fishing. He's off fishing, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I've lit into him. I can't believe. Sid Harris is missing all this.
Honestly, I said, "Are you kidding me? You're going fishing?" He said,
He's in Ticonderoga, New York.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
So, anything else that you want to say, just around what you've seen, what needs to happen next? Just your floor.
We need cooler heads have to prevail. We've got a major problem in the city. We really do, and we have got to figure it out. But we can't be rash. We can't just. I know that. I would love to fund the school department to the full 82, 84 million, whatever. 86 million would be great, right? But it's got to be realistic. So, and I have talked to the superintendent. What do you need this year? Because that's really what we got to look at. To not be laying off.
It's her job to say, I need all of it.
It is, but she's also told us, this is what I need. Mm-hmm. All right. But again, you go another year without doing maintenance on those buildings, and it's a problem. But we're going to have to correct a couple of generations. Remember when the new school was built, that's another time when I got politically involved, because that council and the mayor, they were bickering with each other, and they came so close to voting it down. I called every counselor and I said to them, you have got to. The last chance we had was about 14 years ago, and the city was going to get 92% funding to do it, and the city decided not to do it. The mayor at that time said no. And then here we are 14 years later, and you're bickering, and they said, yeah, but the mayor's not answering questions on this. He's not helping us with this. I said, do not leave the kids. Don't use them as a tool, all right? We need this project done, all right? But they ended up voting it, but then you find out later on all of these stupid deals. For instance, I'll vote for it, but we need something back. You're going to have to give the Medicaid reimbursement back to the city. Who is that helping? Who is that helping? At the end of the day, I don't care if we have a $14 million chargeback or a
How
zero
are the chargebacks
chargeback.
helping?
They don't help. The end result is, what are we funding the schools? If you want to say we're going to give them $90 million but take $20 million back, then you're giving them $70 million. I mean, it's all the same city. And this is stuff we have to get through. We have to get by.
You're on the Charter Review Commission too.
I am.
And you were sitting here when we had a couple calls before, and that's kind of a growing sentiment in the middle of all this discussion, is this idea that this mayor versus town manager discussion's been kind of undercurrent for a while, and the aforementioned Sid Harris has continued the water flowing in the undercurrent.
Yeah. He's a town manager guy, Sid?
He is. Okay. He is definitely on the side of the town manager form of government. I've heard that was, that those weren't plants. That was fairly representative of what I'm hearing in the middle of all this discussion. I don't know if you're hearing that as well. I mean, is it something that is on the table?
It is. It came up on the table at the last charter meeting. So we are going to discuss it, and we are going to go through that. And I know that the thought initially was we weren't going to go in certain areas, but we clarified that. Yeah. We are going to look at every part of that charter, and we will discuss it. I know Sid loves the idea of a town manager. Remember, you brought it up when I was waiting to come on. We had a town manager, and he was literally run out of town.
Yeah.
I get involved in that. That guy was out of control and like a dictator. And yes, the city council can fire him, but if he's strong enough or convincing enough to win over enough of the city councilors, then he's safe, or at least until they get voted out. So there are pluses and minuses across the board on that. Sure. But either way, we've got to be more vigilant, with the city.
Are you gonna have any break here after tonight? Are you gonna turn the phone off this weekend? Or?
Last night you called. I had shut my phone off. And
you told me you were gonna.
Yeah, and then I answered yours, but it was like it's been insane. No, we're not gonna have a break because the phone doesn't stop, and I understand the frustrations of everyone, and we've got the meeting tonight. We've got. The conversations, the backdoor talks, just to try to figure it out and whatever else. And I got to continue making phone calls to get clarification from department heads so I know what I want to cut and what I don't. Then we have a couple of meetings on Monday. We have the big meeting on Tuesday. And then from that point, we keep going. I'm not so sure it's going to get all finished on Tuesday.
Well, I was going to say, you've said, and a bunch of folks have said to me, don't feel very, don't think this is done Tuesday.
No.
You can vote right up until June 30th before there's a government shutdown issue, essentially.
Well, there are people frustrated. If we have 200 people speak on Tuesday, then that happens before we can start going through the budget. And I'm not going to rush because of time. I don't care what time it is. Let's come back another day. This is too important. We got to go through everything.
Absolutely. Lou, any last thoughts here?
No. Not that I want to bring up to Steve.
No.
Because he can't give me the number, which I understand. And again, you and I talked at the beginning of the show. Could be headed towards receivership.
Do you believe that at all? I mean, is that a concept that has been
you can't
discussed
ask him
at all?
You can't ask him that.
Anything's on the table right now. We've just got to get control of our city.
Yeah.
We have to do that now.
I think the superior officers and their
I can
willingness,
ask him, Lou.
their willingness to yield, the willingness to yield to an extent kind of takes that off the table. But at the point where this contract becomes unsustainable for the city government, there's only one way to get rid of the contract.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Hopefully they talk. Hopefully they work things out. You know, it's not just a contract.
Is receivership essentially a government bankruptcy where everything
Essentially.
just goes away?
Essentially.
Everything goes away. Well, once the city goes, I'm not going to even say it. But if something like that happened, then yeah, everything's renegotiated.
There are
and start
degrees
over.
of it, but the bottom line of the receivership is contracts avoided.
Lou Blassi
And we
behind the
start over.
glass
Yeah,
hoping
that's
for
mine.
mass chaos.
No, I'm not.
No, we're going to be
I'm
positive.
not asking for it, but we have to. Is it too strong to say this is a crisis situation? This is a fiscal crisis.
I think it's a fiscal crisis. Now we need to be strong enough to stay focused and do what we have to do. We have to go through it. It's going to make hard decisions.
Yep.
I mean, remember, we're still not talking about things I talked about, like repairing more money to repair infrastructure and sewerage lines and water lines and this and that. We still got to deal with that. So
I'm
we gotta
fearful
get
of
our act
guys like
together.
Jerry with tax increases who called earlier.
Phil?
I'm fearful of people who have kids in school who are going to be paying $300 a year for transportation, which is something that should be part of the school budget.
Yep.
And I mean, parking you can charge. I don't have a moral obligation
Parking's
with
not.
parking.
I like the idea of parking. That's the only fee that I like.
Yeah, I
because
don't have a
when we
problem
were
with
in school, we paid parking passes in my town. But
And
but
I
it
hate
also,
users fees, but I'm okay with them. But transportation is a basic part of education. You can't.
Yeah.
That's a kid tax, is what that
See,
is.
user fees when the kids are older, you know, because I ran the basketball
Mm-hmm.
league for 14 years. I've been involved in other leagues, and you know, it's one thing for mom to come in and say things are tough, and you work a deal out on the side. But when the kids are in high school,
Yeah.
you know, mom's doesn't come in with them. It's they got to go to someone and say, I can't afford this, and a lot of
Yeah,
kids are
that's
not
tough
going to
on the
do that,
kids.
and it's very tough.
But in any situation with user fees, no kid has ever been turned down. I'm not aware of that in Massachusetts.
No,
are you aware
but I
of
mean,
this?
they got to come. They got to come out and
I know,
say it,
and that's you don't want the kids in that position. I understand that.
But you know, but I don't. You know, I just think we can do better. We can do
Oh, yeah.
better as a community.
Yeah.
So listen, the conversation continues online, continues, you know.
I am not affiliated with Loop Weekly in any way. So if
Yes,
you're mad at me, take it out on me.
Absolutely. The views and opinions of Lou Blassi do not reflect the management of Loop Weekly,
Yeah.
i.e. me.
Yeah.
So, but listen, the conversation continues. Show up, be present. That's really the biggest point that I've been trying to get across is be present, because
If you're ever going to get involved in municipal government,
now is
Now's the time.
Yeah. Now, and it's I'll tell you what, it's a hell of a learning experience. And I will say this, and not to suck up just because you're sitting here, I was impressed across the board with what I saw from the city council in terms of asking the tough questions over Monday and Tuesday. So I believe in that, and just, you know, watch the process, be part of the process. So, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Tim Wood, Lou Blassi, huge thanks to Steve Saba for coming in. Another week in the books here on Looped In Live, presented by Methuen Family Health Center. I am available at Tim at Loop Weekly on Facebook at Loop Weekly Methuen, and we'll talk to you. Read Loop Weekly, loopweekly.com. Archives of the show available on loopweekly.com. The Loop TV tab up at the top. And we'll talk.
And thanks, Dan, by the way.
Oh yeah, Dan, and real quick, because we talked about this on Ranger Nation Radio last night. Great thing that MYBA is doing with talking about a middle school version of the unified sports.
Hey, you know, the league has always been, you know, ahead of the curve. Always, and Dan has done a great job. He's doing a really good job taking it over.
Very impressed. So anyway. Next week we'll be back at you. We'll have we'll have a next chapter in this discussion by next week. Might not be resolved, but we'll have a next chapter.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to see how this
Did
is all
this live
going to
up
play
to your
out.
expectations,
Yes,
Lou?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I enjoyed this.
Tim Wood, Lou Blassi, Steve Saba. Thank you to all of the callers and all of the commenters, and we'll talk to you next week on Looped In Live, presented by Methuen Family Health Center.